Hello, beautiful loved one, and welcome to another episode of The Flourishing. I'm really glad you're here. This is where living well leads to loving better. Now, this is season two, and this is the last episode of season two. So I'm really thankful that you came. And if you're watching this on Friday, March 28th, when it airs, then tomorrow is my birthday. And I just want to thank you for being here because I'm celebrating my birthday, wrapping up season two of The Flourishing. Before we get started for today, and I introduce you to my amazing guest, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for being here consistently with me through these last couple of seasons. I see you there, and I'm grateful that you're here. Um, I just want to remind you why I'm here. I'm here because I want to see women flourish and thrive in every area of life and in every season of life. So my prayer when I go into every one of these episodes for you is that as you watch these episodes, all the way from the very first season, the very first episode of The Flourishing, through the second season and even to the upcoming seasons, my prayer is that God would prosper you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, and holistically, literally in every area of life. And I believe that He does that, and I believe He can do that. So my prayer is that these conversations that you're listening to will empower you to seek God more and ask Him to show you Himself every day. And I believe that we learn about His character through reading His word. So I pray that you will be drawn to read His word and ask the right questions. All of the questions are the right questions. Just ask the questions and seek Him throughout your day. So I believe He wants to do that. I believe He wants to speak to you. He wants you to hear. He wants you to hear from Him so that you can know who He is. And in knowing more about who He is, we know about who we are. But I am truly excited to see where this community grows from here and and what God does with it. I'm looking forward to next season and all that God has planned for that. I hope that you'll continue to join us and just that you'll share with your friends because I want to see this community grow, but I also just hope that we can have activities together that everybody wants to join in on. So whether that's in person or virtual, I hope that you will choose to be there with us and that we can all just continue to grow together. So thank you again. And I just wanted to make sure I said that at the top because you might not be here at the end, but I wanted to make sure that you heard that. So, okay, now I'd like to welcome my amazing friend, obviously, another amazing guest that I have on today. This dear friend of mine I've referenced her actually in the past episodes. So now you'll get to meet her. She is a prayer warrior, woman of God. She is a wife to an amazing husband, a mother to four very talented, beautiful children. She's a renowned author of several books, of which I've read, and also a talented actress and model. She's beautiful inside and out and loves people passionately. And I'm excited for you to hear from this faithful woman. So please welcome my friend, Chana Kiefer. Hello, Chana.
Hello, beautiful lady.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Just chilling,
I'm so
smiling
glad
at your
you're here.
gorgeous face.
Oh, you are gorgeous. Look, can we just take a moment to enjoy the beauty of like fine wine just graced on the screen? I've known you for
Just wanted to
years
talk.
and you have just continued to get better with age. I think it's God just resting upon you, but
Oh wow, that's really really sweet to hear because you know how our own mirrors tend to say otherwise
I know.
sometimes.
I do know that I suffer from that same thing, but I look at you and I'm like, oh, she just carries Jesus so beautifully. And
Aw,
I know all the things that you've walked through in life, and yet it has not worn on your face. And I think it's because of how you
aw.
carry Jesus.
Well, thank you very much. I've got a
Yeah,
very
I'm
good
so
God
glad
and
you're
a
here.
wonderful husband, and
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
and friends like you. Come on, come on.
I'm so glad you're here. For obviously for those of you that don't know how we met, this it's kind of, I know it was through church.
I remember the first time we connected.
Really? Okay,
Yes, I
if you
do.
say this, I'm gonna be like, I totally remember that. Okay.
Okay, it was the green room at Real
Okay.
Life.
Not surprising.
And I had probably been in the prayer chair, and it was after a service. And you and I sat down on that couch, and we just started, just it was kind of the heart. I think I see someone I can connect to. And then you were asking about the first book that I'd published. And I was like, okay, this is a true litmus test. If this gal can hang with me through the description of this book and not just go, oh, wow, she's wild. I think I'm out. It was like, oh no, you just tracked with it and you were just like connected. And I remember those eyes just looking into my soul, and you were just so hungry for more of God. And yeah, that was just the beginning of, there is an awesome friend that I think I'm going to have for the rest of my life.
And look at where we are.
I
I
know.
I do remember that, and I do remember that was the beginning of everything else. I do remember that conversation, and then I remember always hoping that you were going to be in the green room because I wasn't very comfortable in the green room because I didn't really have people that I connected with or felt comfortable around. So you made it feel very safe in there when you were in there, and so
Aw,
the weeks that you weren't there when I was
you
working,
move with such grace. I never would have known that.
thank
I
you,
never would have known that. You
thank
just,
you.
you were helping to run things, and you just seemed so just intelligent and awesome and funny. And I was like,
Oh,
so
thank you.
you didn't put
Yeah,
that across.
that's
Just let me say,
good. That's great. Yeah, no, my
you
internals were,
brought a nice atmosphere.
yay. Thank
Mm,
you. Well,
always.
that reminds me of the atmosphere that you and Mark have always brought when you opened up your home for Friday
Aw.
nights. And I remember the kids being little and
Hmm.
you guys just always just it was like whoever wanted to come by, your house was open. And I always wanted
So
to do the
fun.
same thing. And I saw you guys live that out. And it was such those are some of our favorite memories. Just
Oh,
going into your home, no
your kids were little at the
little.
time. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking like what, 4-ish?
Yeah, they were 5 and 4. Or no, see,
And
no,
now they're
10.
taller than
Oh
both of
no,
us,
they were
probably.
9 and 7, but they were little. They were small back then but they were nine
Before
and
they
seven
knew.
because it was 2014 when I started working there. And
Oh,
so
does
Amaya
it?
was not
I
9,
think
she
it
was
seems
8.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah, so 8 and 6. And yeah, it was just it was just the perfect season and all the times that you guys spent praying for people and just doing life together.
Mhm.
That's what that was. It was very quickly started. And because of that, there was relationships built with you and Amy and I, and then
Oh, yeah.
Meek and just all of those. There were so many relationships in that house that
Mhm.
just flourished because you guys opened your home.
It
So
was so organic. I loved it.
yeah,
And it was just, if you feed them, they will come. I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
And
yes,
I can remember the dance parties, just the silliness, the games, the movies, but everybody, were chatting out in the front. Anyway,
yeah.
very,
I
very
think
fun
it's
time.
really important for even for ladies to hear that no matter what your home looks like it can be a house, it can be an apartment, it can be a small living room, a big living room. If you just provide a space that is just open and you just say there will be food, you can bring food if you want, but just come and enjoy. I think we put in our mind that our home has to look a certain way or be a
Mhm.
certain size or we have to have a certain something in order to
Or
open
all the laundry needs to be put
put
away and everything
away.
needs to be perfect. If that
Yes.
was the case, we never, ever would have had a
Yeah.
Friday night pizza movie night,
Right.
because with four,
Kids.
growing kids and just
Yeah.
the mayhem, it's never perfect,
It wasn't. And you
never even
guys
close.
just said, like, just come in. It's not clean,
Mhm.
it's not whatever, but you just opened your home. And it made
Mhm.
the rest of us feel like we could do the same thing and we could come in and just be ourselves, kick off our
Mhm.
shoes, cuddle up on the couch. How many times did all of us fall asleep on the couch being there so late?
Yeah, well, I think that was real important. I don't want to spend too long on this, but
Yeah.
I think that was real important in California, especially
Yeah.
because we were transplants from like, Oklahoma, raised in Texas. And then you get to California, you realize there's a lot of people who are transplants from other places.
Mhm.
And whether they are single
Yeah.
or they're just because of time and space, away from family,
Yeah.
it can be kind of lonely. And so
Yeah.
there's a real need for a place to feel like home.
Yeah.
No
Absolutely.
pressure, just come as you are. And yeah, like you said, these blankets back here covering stuff. I mean, I remember pulling out, just covering people, and sometimes it was like, oh, they're already asleep, and the
Yeah.
movie's still going. It was just so
Yeah.
like I
That's,
got to be Mother Hen. It was awesome.
yeah. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being
Mm-hmm.
that for me and my kids. And I know everybody would say thank you for that because it was good times.
Mm-hmm.
So to hop into today's conversation, I struggled in the beginning when planning this to think about like where to start with you because I know how much has happened in your journey with the Lord and in your walk and with your family. And so I was like, I really want to go back to the beginning and see like how she became this woman. But I'm like, we only have so much time. So I just want to kind of, if you can, if you're able to, just kind of give me a summary of what led you to know God the way you do
Mm-hmm.
today, because I know that you've gone through some of these things because of life's
Oh yeah.
circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe briefly just tell us like how you came to know that God is God
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
what
I'm
has
editing in my
been,
head as I think of this. It's a big
yeah,
question.
yeah,
Okay. I
like
was raised in
childhood. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'll make it quick. I was raised in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor's son. Eventually, my father became a pastor, but it was like in his 40s because he was all these different things. That's a long story right there. But I got to see a lot of the end of the Jesus movement of like the 70s. And I was a little kid just going, oh my gosh, church can be fun. Oh my gosh, somebody just got healed. Oh my gosh, people are dancing and laughing and church is, awesome. And Jesus is cool. And then I went to a church camp where a lot of these young pastors had brought together just a way to help teens build some root system in their relationship with God and daily rhythms
Okay.
to grow, because you can have this big high mountaintop experience, and then you go back to school, you go back to friends, and slowly the world starts pulling you down, and next thing you know, do I even know God? Did I imagine all that?
Mhm.
But so moving on, there's a lot of healing and stuff that God did because no family's perfect.
Mhm.
And met the love of my life. We start raising a family, and just things are hard because life is life, and
Mhm.
sort of hitting this crux moment. And it was right about when the 24/7 prayer movement was kind of hitting this worldwide thing. And there was a book by Pete Greig called Red Moon Rising that my husband brought home from a really cool revival type thing he had been to. And I read that, I reread it, read it again, and it just kind of got down into my bones. And I was like, God, I'm so frustrated with my own limitations, with the things I'm struggling with, that a lot of times I think if I've done all these things right, why am I even having these troubles?
Mhm.
So I just went, okay, if you're real, I mean, those questions happen. I'm going to be first thing in every morning, I'm going to be in my closet on my face an hour. And either you're going to show up or you're not. And, it was kind of like calling God out. So I'd like to say I was just all, highfalutin, deep spiritual Christian, but it was out of frustration that I went, this is where faith meets the road. Rubber meets the road. Is this real, or has it just been some kind of philosophy that really doesn't carry me when life hits hard? Okay, that was about 20 years ago. Then, I mean, things started really multiplying in just, I guess, valleys, fires, things like that. About 7 years ago, both of my parents started a very quick downward spiral health wise.
Mhm.
And I was in the thick of that with my older brother and sister. And then they both passed. And we're like 3 months out of that. And suddenly our older daughter's health really hits the fan. Um, and it's just a whole new level of, oh my Lord, just survival mode. And the pain of seeing her go through so much and praying so hard. And I mean, I've prayed and seen people healed. She's prayed and seen people healed. She was spent a year at Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, and here she is stuck in this pain-ridden body. And help. I had been helping to lead a prayer team for 10 years at our church, and I mean, just bam. I mean, we hit a major wall, but there was really no time to wallow in it because you're just coming up every now and then for a gulp of air before the whitewater rapids take you back down. So lots of phases, lots of stuff going through all of that. We moved from California to Tennessee. She's found some really good help. We've been, turning over every rock possible, finding answers for her. And I mean, even just in the last couple of months, she's really reached a whole new level of better that we're super excited about. And we're able to kind of see past this phase toward, oh, she does have a future. And God's answers to prayer, but not always the immediate ones. It's the one of, yeah, I'm taking you by a long, hard road, and I would not have put this on you or, planned this. There's a lot the enemy has done, but God never wastes it, and he never leaves you in the middle of it. So that's basically where we are now.
Yeah, and how have you been able to hold on to believing that God is good through these hard times? Because I mean, you said 20 years ago was when
I started
that,
praying every day as a
yeah,
as a true habit.
right. I met you 20 like that like 20 years ago is 2015 or
Now
so.
that was like oh 04. Oh 04 is when I first
Oh,
started
duh,
praying.
that's when I was born. Okay,
Oh
duh. Yeah, I
05,
was
God
thinking
started giving
17 years ago.
dreams.
Okay.
I started
Okay.
writing full time. Oh 05, yada yada yada.
Yeah. Okay. So I met you at the 10-year mark of that.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So then, oh, I was with you through your parents
Yes,
being sick,
yes.
all that stuff. So
hmm
I
That was in
never,
2018.
yeah. So um, even though I saw this happening, you were always, yes, you were concerned, but you were always very faithful to believe and trust in God. So how have you held on to the idea that God is good, especially watching your child, your oldest daughter,
hmm
suffer and go through this pain every single day? Because I know how hard that was.
Yeah,
So how did
yeah.
you hold on to the belief that God was good in that?
I'm really glad that there was a rhythm, a habit of coming to him every single day because, and I, habit of journaling too, because I can just go, I mean, I understand the Psalms better now
Yeah.
because there's times when you start reading a Psalm and you're like, dadgum, this guy doesn't even sound like he has any faith whatsoever.
Mhm.
I get it.
Yeah.
So often we start there
Mhm.
and God will fill, he will overflow. And you're just like, oh, I'm on this wonderful mountaintop. It's like, wow, God, you're so incredible, so good. I just sense your presence so strongly. And then the next morning, here I am dragging my carcass back into the prayer time,
Right.
needing him that much more. I liken it, I guess, to water. You drink, when you're thirsty, and then life makes you parched all over again.
Mm.
You eat till you're full. That doesn't mean you're full forever.
Mm.
And darn it, we leak. And there is just stuff coming at us, not just from those hard times, but just other people, other struggles.
Mm.
You cannot control diddly squat. Quote me on that. We control pretty much diddly squat.
Right.
in our lives,
Yeah.
but God. And so there was a time this past year when I was kind of in a funk and just coming to God in the morning, and it just feel like, oh God, same song, thousandth verse. I wish I could come feeling so victorious. And God just kind of, almost like he reached out and just put his finger on my lips and was like, shh.
Mm.
And, you have to kind of work to still your soul. I understand David's language of be still my soul. And God spoke so clearly to my heart. He goes, I'm so proud of you.
Mm.
And I was like, why?
Right.
Because, I was certainly in a moment where it had been so hard. It's like zero ambition, just zero strength for anything past this moment. So I did not feel like an overcomer whatsoever.
Mm.
And so I was literally going, why? And he goes, through all the storms we've been through, you never let go of my hand.
Mm.
Of course, I was toast, just dissolved. But to hear your Heavenly Father say that, especially when you don't feel strong, you don't feel wise, you don't feel faith filled,
Mhm.
but for him to just give
Acknowledge.
you a well done,
Yeah.
I was just dumbfounded and grateful and just sat there and bawled. But
So do
he's
you
so
think,
good about that. Hmm?
so do you think that the habit of being in with God every day is what prepared you to still see that he was good when you were in the dark times? Do you
It
think you would
certainly
have thought,
helped.
okay,
It certainly helped.
so do you think that if you hadn't had that time with him prior to that, that you would have still thought he was good while you were going through these heavy times?
It probably would have driven me to it because at least throughout my life, the hard stuff, there's nowhere else to go.
Mm,
Let's be real. There's nowhere else to go.
that's good.
It's kind of like when the people around Jesus didn't abandon him when he would say hard things and they would be like, I don't understand what you're saying. And then he goes, well, are you going to leave me too? And his disciples say, well, nobody else has the words of life
Mm,
like you do. So even if I was feeling put out, angry, bitter, frustrated, just kind of going, God, what the hell?
yeah.
I at least knew I've come to you before in this sour of an attitude and you've never rejected me. And there were times, even years ago when I first started praying a lot, um, that God would kind of shock me with what he would stick around for. Because there were
Mm.
times it was like battery acid pouring out
Yeah.
of my soul, just frustrated and, just getting it real, real.
Yeah.
And
Same.
thinking, I wouldn't put up with this from my kids.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
yet
Right.
you're still here.
Yeah. Totally.
Wow.
I know.
So,
I am always surprised when I talk with people and I tell them like how many times I've cussed God out. Like I'm like I
uh-huh,
seriously have cussed him out and I feel bad
not
after.
proud of it,
Right. Like
but
I'm
it's
not
true.
exactly like
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
like I'm always feeling bad after. I'm always feeling like wow, I just totally disrespected the one true God. But like wow,
Yeah.
thanks for forgiving me because I just was really feeling one and I was just really mad and I was really emotional and I always felt this like a hug, like we would to our kids after they've had a tantrum or after they've, freaked out on us and then they come back and they just acknowledge that they shouldn't have acted that way and they're sorry. Like you never reject them. You just are like, thank you for acknowledging that you just acted like that. And I always felt like
Mhm.
God would always hug me after my meltdowns like that. But I also think that it makes the relationship with him truly real because what I was saying is that when I've told people about certain people about my conversations with God like that, they were appalled and like, how dare you ever?
Religious spirit won't allow
Right.
you to be real.
Exactly.
You're
And that is
supposed to
what I
put
was going to
on your
say.
face. You're supposed to put
Yep.
on your best clothing. You're
Yeah.
supposed to act pious.
Yeah.
And Jesus came in the flesh and blood,
Yeah.
and he hurt and he cried and he got angry,
Yeah.
justifiably so,
Right.
and said, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Yeah.
He was showing us that God wants intimacy.
Yeah. And so it's been an intimate walk that you've had with God throughout all of
Mhm.
this pain that
Mhm.
you've experienced in your family and in your own life personally. And now you're at this, you said it's been 7 years and you're kind of at this turning point with your
Mhm.
oldest daughter's health. And when you look at that, are you believing that it's done? Are you believing that she's healed? Are you wondering when the next thing is? Like, what is your current mindset and where does that come from? Your current mindset about her health?
Current mindset is hallelujah, that she is as well as she is, that we have uncovered some very valuable, hopefully helpful to others truth, because um, there's several things she dealt with. I could go on and on about it, but I mean, started out with a very vicious endometriosis, and through searching, found that she was dealing with Lyme, and then a condition called Ehlers-Danlos, which is a weakness of the connective tissue. Now, all three of those diagnoses in the regular medical way of thinking is it's degenerative, sucks to be you, not a whole lot we can do, and it's really not curable. So, praise God for his faith and his encouragement and his connection to people who were like 10 steps ahead of us
Mhm.
on each of these diagnostic journeys, that we have found people who color outside the box.
Mhm.
We have found people who had real answers and who would advocate for her, um, and believe better.
Mhm.
Therefore, I mean, all along, when McKenna and I would both like hit a wall, I mean, probably me more than her, she's a champ. Um, but it would be sensing God saying, I won't waste this. She is going to be a light in a very dark space.
Mhm.
Because when she would do her research on, endometriosis, Lyme, especially Ehlers-Danlos, which is really not very known in the regular medical community and certainly not talked about, it was pretty depressing. And she would have, especially in those first couple of years when she was suffering so much and so constantly, she would just say, I learned this and this, but I had to pull away because they will just talk in such a way like nobody in the world's going to get you. This is just degenerative. It's just going to get worse. The only people who will understand you are our community. And
Mhm.
she was like, I can't live like that. I refuse to live like that. I refuse to accept that.
Right.
So, in that way, I saw her championing her faith,
Mhm.
standing with God. If everybody's going to be against that, she's like, fine, I'm standing with him.
Right.
And over, he would encourage us that she was going to be a light in this very depressing, very dark space where people are just suffering. And what they find, even when they research, is more suffering
Mhm.
or a more victim mentality. Who needs that?
Yeah.
That's not empowering.
Right.
So already, I mean, just in the last few weeks, we've had God bringing conversations, or, you meet somebody new and you say what she's dealing with, and they go, oh, I work with two people who have that, which is, you what?
Yeah.
I have a friend whose daughter, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, so it's just been really cool to find some answers and then have some hope to
Yeah.
share for others going through the same kind of walk,
Right.
because it's lonely and it's hard.
Mhm.
But we've been through that fire and, have some tips of,
Yeah. So practically speaking,
mhm,
what are some of the things that you guys have physically done
mhm.
or found that have helped her health physically? If there are any things, and I know some of it takes like functional medicine doctors or alternative medicine, but like
Right.
what kind of things could you give to the listeners that might be dealing with something like this?
Sure. With the endometriosis, we found a surgeon in the California area who did a laparoscopy procedure and was able to eradicate the endo, which most doctors are like, we can help but to eradicate it now. The Lyme, we did find a doctor here in Georgia who treats Lyme with something called an SOT, which basically takes those Lyme bacteria, replicates them, changes it, puts it back in the body so that they target only the other Lyme bacteria and keep them from replicating, keep them from reproducing. So in 8 weeks, you should be Lyme free, and that worked. He also did a personal stem cell with McKenna's own blood, once again, and that was like putting, super cells in her body, and kind of, that was another better normal. And then for us, we had kind of stumbled into the whole carnivore. I mean, we were doing kind of paleo, kind of keto for years, just loose, lazy-ish. And even the really wonderful functional doctor that we'd gone to had told McKenna, well, stay away from this and this, but eat a variety of foods, yada, yada. Well, we learned, because January 1st, both of us went 100% carnivore. Doesn't sound nutritionally viable. It really doesn't. I get it. If you've had any kind of nutritional training, you need those fruits and vegetables, and plant-based is better, and yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying this for everybody, but for McKenna, for someone who's already dealing with digestive issues, with connective tissue issues, going 100% carnivore was like giving her these building blocks. Now that we've eradicated the Lyme, now that she's had these other procedures and she's had supplements she's been taking all along for the last 3 years, but this really turned a corner, so her body is not in pain all the time.
Wow.
I mean, hallelujah.
Wow.
And I did not really see this coming, because we were pretty, at least paleo.
Yeah.
Instead of flour, we were doing almond flour. Instead of this,
Right.
we were doing that. But when we tweaked that and made that decision on January 1st, it's a whole new world that opened up for her.
So
It used to
can you
always,
go ahead. No, finish that. It used to always be.
well, usually she would have to drink like half water, half wine when she had a meal, just to help things digest. That has stopped.
Wow.
Now we will do mono meals, meaning one thing at a time, and all carnivore. She doesn't do eggs. They don't settle for her as well. But we do, really well-sourced grass-fed beef, whether it's steak or ground. We do wild-caught salmon, and we get some raw butter from some Amish friends of ours here. And those things, they're like flank and short ribs, things that I didn't know about. There's a gal on YouTube you can study called the Steak and Butter Gal. And we stumbled across her thing, lots of information, lots of wisdom there. Also, Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, was the one that first kind of triggered us looking into this a little over a year ago. And it was just that thrill in my heart as I listened to her story. And I mean, she is way strict. It's called the Lion Diet because she just does steak and water and salt. That's it.
Like that's all she eats?
Yes. And she is a picture of glowing health. Yeah. And even the Steak and Butter Gal on YouTube, I just look at her and it's like, girl, whatever you're doing, it's working. Tell me.
But that's what the carnivore diet is, just eating.
Carnivore is just animal products, whether it's eggs, for me, eggs, raw cheese, I can do any of that. And, the meat.
Right.
I can do, the chicken as well, of course. McKenna has found that she needs definitely high fat, good fat. We're not talking grease. We're talking healthy, well-sourced, grass-fed fat. It's
But
just a
not
lot.
like avocados fat.
Not yet. I can
Okay,
do, the
interesting.
avocados. The Steak and Butter gal, her husband will do avocados. She's like, that's the most carnivore-ish, you know, fruit or veggie that you could do is avocado, and it's high fat. Um,
So with the people that you're watching on YouTube
mhm,
and what you're doing with your own health, with McKenna's health, and I'm
mhm.
assuming with everybody in the family, are you seeing, like, are you thinking this is God using resources to help you? Is this God just doing a miracle and he's touched your body? Do you think it's a combination of both?
Yes. There's my easy answer. All of the above. I feel like he led us this way, and when you have a child who's suffering, you're desperate. You will do whatever the heck it takes to find answers, to find relief, to give them a life. So, as this helps her, I'm just like, how much more do I need to learn from all of this? And it has, I mean, there's the basic things of, yeah, I dropped a few pounds that I wanted to drop, but what's keeping me in it, with me doing the carnivore, even though I don't have to be as strict with it as she is, because I don't have like 3 days of pain if I put a piece of fruit in my mouth. She does. So some of it is that I want to just support her and kind of stay in that same headspace, that rhythm, and understanding what she's doing. But also the inflammation, I mean, there were aches and things, and that I just thought, well, it's because of my age, it's just the way things are. But they've gone away. And one of the factors that is, I think, the biggest for me, there were times, going through this fire we've been journeying through for the last 7 years, there's times that you understandably would get in a funk,
Mhm.
that you would just get down, struggle, you just kind of want to pull the covers over your head and stay there. But that had gotten to be something I was really struggling with on a regular basis, and it wouldn't necessarily have a particular, this set of circumstances is causing this mental state
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah.
It would just be these dark moods, and I would just think, well, my faith needs to be better. I need to,
Mm.
handle this better if I would just fill in the blank.
Right.
But with this, I am in a much healthier mental state. I don't feel like I'm having to fight against these bouts of depression, despair, dark moods, negative, just negativity. It's just the fight has gotten a lot easier in that regard. And I'm like, dang, if this is helping that,
Yeah.
holy moly,
Right.
I mean, much better than going, I'm going to get on antidepressants or something,
Right.
which
Right.
I'm
Right.
not judging anybody
Right.
who has reached that point where they're like, survival mode. I've
Yeah.
got to do something
Yeah.
because this is bad for everything involved. But if what we are not taking into our bodies is helpful,
Then change
I
it.
mean, I just think we're living in a broken, fallen world,
Mhm.
and there's so much in our soil, in our air, in our fruits and vegetables, even if they're categorized as organic,
Mhm.
that make it really hard for our bodies to process. And the more we're doing this pretty strict carnivore, the less we're getting processed foods. I mean,
Okay.
you can do it the dirty way. You can go with, crap cheese or just processed salami and cheese slices, whatever. But if the more you get whole foods that are nutritionally dense, it's just yeah, it's really, really, really changed things.
Okay, so
And
I eat processed salami and all that stuff because I'm thinking easy snack that's like reasonably
yeah.
healthy, right?
Hmm.
So can we go into a little bit more of like where you get your meat? Like where,
Uh-huh.
how do you like, can you go to Sprouts and get it? Can you go to Trader Joe's and get it? Like where do you get good meat then?
Yes, we do some Sprouts. They have some really well-sourced grass-fed meat there. We do some Trader Joe's. I even do some at Costco, which I thought I would not do at
Yeah,
all.
I've heard the
But as
Costco. Yeah.
yes, surprisingly,
Hmm.
the Steak and Better gal actually has one video where she goes through and she's getting her week's worth of carnivore at Costco. And she was like, you don't have to be super rich to be able to do carnivore if you're able to make the better choices and get the meats that are as well sourced as they can be and what you can afford, even if it's ground beef. You
Hmm.
know, if that's what you can afford, then that's what you can do. But you don't want to have palate fatigue and just be eating the same thing day in, day out and finally go,
Right.
I can't take this anymore.
Right.
But yes, we have found good sources through Sprouts, through Trader Joe's, through Costco, but also it's not something that we're like crazy, crazy strict about because you still got to live your life. And we do need to afford it because Mark, as he watched, my husband Mark, as he watched McKenna get so much better and then watched me feel so much better and kind of stay at a higher plane of coping,
Mhm.
um, he was asking his questions. So about 3 weeks ago, he started doing 100% carnivore. And, you know, it got to the point we're going, okay, we just need a lot of the good stuff. And it can't all be grass fed, locally raised ribeyes because you can't afford that.
Yeah.
So we've had to kind of adjust and we're getting some at Costco, some at Sprouts, some at, you know,
So I have been looking a little bit more into the anti-inflammatory diet just because, my health history
right,
and I see different things happening in like Maddox and his body and the way that his body reacts to things.
right.
And so I've been looking at that and I'm interested to know I haven't gone into strict detail just because I haven't made the time yet, but I
Mhm.
started looking at it and you don't see do you know the difference between the anti-inflammatory diet and the carnivore diet? Because I see that there's a lot of things that you're not eating that are listed on the anti-inflammatory diet as okay to eat for anti-inflammation. So I feel
Mhm.
like it's really interesting, like the body and what it needs and what it
Mhm.
doesn't need, and you literally have to just try. You have to try it and see what happens.
Yeah, like every body is different. There's different blood types.
Right.
There's just, we're so unique.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's ever going to be a one size fits all. We have found the truth. Therefore, everybody needs to do this.
Right.
I think there is wholeness and better that we can all be doing. And as we, you know, kind of run into those walls of health issues, of emotional issues, aches, pains, whatever, to really, you know, say, God, what will help here? And lead me to the right resources, lead me to the right connections, the right people with maybe a similar path. Um, there, I was real surprised when there's a Dr. Berg, Berg, on YouTube as well. And I don't know that you know, every single thing I'm just 100%, but there was one video he had where it was like the most anti-inflammatory food you can eat. And it sort of leads you along and then revealed well-sourced red meat.
Mm.
That is just the exact opposite of
Yeah.
everything we've been taught
Right.
in nutrition classes or whatever.
Yeah.
Usually it's stay away from red meat because that's where all the diseases come from, or that's what you can't digest. Well, yeah, if you're throwing it in there with the baked potato, your body can't do both of those at the same
Okay.
time. It takes different enzymes.
That's a really good point because it's usually steak and potatoes, meat and potatoes.
Mhm.
Da, da, da.
Or
So
rice pilaf.
rice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you guys aren't doing those things right now, and
no,
you're
no.
just
And
doing
it's
the
it's a
meat
little
and you're
hard because
yeah.
I had to give up potatoes about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I realized they, for some reason with me, made my knees hurt. And I would feel like, I mean, pain, like I have to
Wow.
hobble going down and upstairs. It's just kind of discovered through happenstance that, oh, potatoes are the trigger. What the what? Who knew?
Yeah.
But there are things in potatoes, I think, and things in a lot of what we would consider like really healthy foods, like the sweet potatoes, like so many of the fruits and vegetables, lectins and oxalates,
Yeah.
Xalates. You can look those up.
Yeah.
And I think some of, I have a little bit of patches on my face. And luckily I've been listening to the steak and butter gal who had a major oxalate dumping when she started eating carnivore because she had been vegan for 6 years. And I mean, so her body was
Wow.
just full,
Yeah.
full of oxalates. And
Right.
she said it was like practically, rubbing these crystals out of my eyes, out of my ears, my
Oh my
patches.
God.
She was really, but luckily she had mentors to tell
Right.
her that's part of what's going on is that detoxing.
So yeah, detoxing. So are you taking any supplements in addition to what you're eating in order to get whatever else you need, or is it just the food?
It's probably habit for me. McKenna is doing supplements. It's like, pills, just things that she had been taking through, the doctor, the holistic doctor that we've
Okay.
seen for her, and she continues those. Um, I have a drink I do in the mornings that is sort of a combination, and is probably totally not carnivore, but I don't know that I need it. I think it's more of a
Yeah.
mental safety net.
Right.
Um, but it's not hurting me at this point. Like I said, I don't have to be as strict as she is.
Right.
Um, but do I need it? I don't know. I'm used to doing it.
Right. And it's
It,
not harming anything.
no. I still drink my ketones. I still make my shakes. I've stopped using almond milk. I'll use like some raw goat milk
Mhm.
that we're able to get. Yeah, that's just me.
I know. I know. No, I've been thinking that I needed to stop using almond milk as well, but
Oh, we would go through,
yeah,
Costco
so many,
major,
so
so many
many.
boxes.
Yeah, and now I have oat milk in there, but then oat milk has a lot of sugar and you're just eat it and carbs and I just
For my blood type, I don't do well with oats.
yeah, well, and I don't either for my blood type, but I just wanted the kids to have some milk in the house if they're gonna have like a cereal.
Something.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, so now I'm like, we have these oat milk because I always have to at least have two in the house of any milk that we do because it goes so fast. But so now I'm like, oh shoot, there's oat milk. And I struggle with like food. I'm just, oh, food.
The more you know, the more you can get
Yes.
paranoid. Yeah,
Yes.
we don't want to
So
live there. We
now
don't
it's
want to be
like,
in
what
paranoid
milk do I
city.
do now if I'm
Yeah.
not going to do almond and they don't really like soy and I'm not going to do soy? That's not an option. But it's like, so then what do I do? So what kind of milk are you?
Well, for our younger two, and for Markson too, we've turned to lactose-free organic milk.
Oh,
And
okay.
I can even have a bit of that and it doesn't throw me for a loop like normal milk would.
Okay.
But I'm careful
And then for
because
McKenna,
McKenna, oh, this is awesome. The same family that we get our raw goat's milk from at our farmer's market, they have sheep's milk. Not all year round, but when the sheeps are in lambing, she has found that sheep milk is incredible for her. I mean, she could be having a very hard day. And, even back before she was doing 100% carnivore, she could always do sheep's milk, even when it was like a hell day. Because, well, something she learned in her research is that if you're eating, if you're having like a raw milk,
yeah.
there's enough enzymes there for it to digest itself. But sheep's milk, for some reason, there's enough enzymes in sheep's milk to digest it and other things.
Wow,
So
that's
it moves
amazing.
along the digestion really well. So we're kind of like, what? Do we become shepherds? What? Um, but yeah, she's gotten to be a big fan of sheep's milk.
Okay, so we
And
have
it tastes
only
great.
touched like one area of life, and I know we have to like wrap up here, but I feel like you need to come back because this is just one pocket. We didn't even get to talk. Oh, there's so much that I want. Like I have a list of things in my head I want to talk about with you, um, but as we wrap up this episode, which ended up being mostly like
Well,
amazing.
this is the immediate,
Yeah.
journey that I've been on, so it's very much in the
Yeah, and
forefront.
I love that because I feel
Mm,
like we really haven't on this season, we haven't talked about nutrition heavily. And this
mhm,
was a very good talk, a beginning talk about nutrition
mhm,
and sickness and how our diet really plays into that. And I know I've seen that with lupus and kidney
mhm.
failure and all of that, and how my life is
Girl.
completely transformed since really choosing to eat differently.
Mhm.
So I love talking about that stuff, and I
Yeah.
want to continue to talk about that. And this is in this podcast is all about thriving in all those areas. So it's like
Wholeness.
including, yeah, complete
Wholeness.
wholeness. And
Yes,
that is that like there is everything spiritual, but there's also what are we inputting? And
exactly.
that includes food, what you're watching,
Mhm,
what you're listening to, all the things. And I love that we talked about that,
mhm.
just so happens. But as we wrap up this episode, is there anything that you wanted to share today that we did not cover? I'd love to give you space to talk about that. And I know, like, we didn't even get to talk about your books or how you got into writing, or,
Go to Amazon, find them. They're all great,
and
and
they're all
I
great.
God's good.
They are all great. And I'll even link the books here. Not that we talked about any of them, but I can link your Amazon to in the description. But was there anything that you wanted to share as we
There,
wrap up?
I think there is something that I probably should touch on. Um, Quick story, when my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the summer of 2018, um, I mean, everything just comes into sharp focus. We were living in California. I went back to Texas like 3 out of 4 weeks of the month, just trying to help with everything that was going on. It was crazy. Then I got a call from some friends in Tulsa. We used to live there, ages ago, and they were involved with this project called the Eyewitness Bible, and they were reaching out to me because they said, "We want you to be our Mary." And I was like, bad timing.
Mhm.
I had no ambition in that moment. I had no give a rip. Because usually be like, oh, an opportunity. I love to act. I love to, yada, yada, yada. And it was just like, roadkill. Um, Thanks for thinking of me. It's just not the right time, yada, yada. So I got off the phone, and then God was very quickly, do you think it was convenient for Mary when she got pregnant in her teenage years? Do you think it was convenient for Joseph? You know, it's not easy. That's not what I'm leading you into. I lead you on my path. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Wow.
Maybe this is exactly the headspace you need to be in
Mhm.
to play, like a grown up Mary who's looking back at those experiences. So, I got involved with it. I sent a quick little audition. They were just like, we just need to, follow these steps. And I ended up playing Mary for eyewitnessbible.org. You can go to that. There's about over 200 character driven videos that are, they even have it on the U version of the Bible as a form, a translation of the Bible. And it's just so good for our sight and sound generation, and maybe people who are coming to Christ in, maybe in their adulthood or maybe as teens or whatever, and they don't have that basis of, having heard all those Bible stories and raised in a church Bible reading family, whatever, and they want to become acquainted with the Bible in an efficient, engaging, fascinating way. So I got to be a part of that. I've done like 6 of them over the last, 6, 7 years. But eyewitnessbible.org. And it was just wild because it was such an honor. I mean, talk about the role of a lifetime. And in my weakness, in the brokenness of that moment, man, God showed up. I mean, the first time going through that on the set, and then there's just this silence as I finished. I mean, it was like a 20-minute, quite involved thing. And it was just quiet. And you kind of had that heart stopping, that they hated it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then here comes Andrea, who's the director, and she just like enfolds me and just starts prophesying and weeping, and we're weeping together. And she's like, makeup, we still need another.
Right.
But it was just so amazing. And God just got a hold of me so strongly in that moment of when you feel, so often when we feel the least capable, the least worthy, the least up to it, most broken. I mean, just in our weakness, he is strength. And it was just such a powerful flow. I mean, I am so, I mean, it just still just makes me weep to think of it, because I mean, I was so broken. I guess the point of that story is no matter how broken, beat up, roadkill, thrashed we can feel, God is never going to say, you're trash. No. He comes into our weakness and makes us strong. He comes into our brokenness and makes us whole, makes us a vessel of wholeness for other people. And, you know, these last few years and everything of just those broken moments, but God never quits showing up and never quits being good and loving and kind and kicking the seat of the pants when I need it, hugs anytime. Anyway, so eyewitnessbible.org, go look it up and share it with people who may want a deep dive into learning the Bible, learning the ins. It's very biblically, scripturally based. Very, very good.
I love that. And I think it's important to share things like that because not everybody is opening up the Bible to physically read it, but they will listen to a video, they will watch a podcast, they will,
Right.
you know, and I think that I'm really glad that you shared that. And that is something that is so beautifully done. And you shine in that, like, just wow. So yeah, I will also put that in the description. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. Thank you for joining us today, Chana, being with us. And I really need more time. This was not enough time to go, but I guess this is what God wanted for this one.
Yes,
But I
yes. And
really,
hopefully something we've talked about is exactly what
yeah,
someone needs to hear, because I've had so many of those moments. It's like there's a lifeline there.
yeah,
I needed that lifeline because
yeah,
I was going down.
right. Yeah, I believe that's the case. And maybe hopefully, God willing, we can have you back on and we
I
can talk
love it.
more about, yeah, there's just so much
I
more to
love it.
cover. But thank you to those of you who have tuned in with us and sat in our living space and listened to our conversation. Just really glad that you were here. And you can find Shauna. She is on Facebook and Instagram. So you can find her. You can look up her name. She's there. And you can see all the amazing things that she has done through her books. I will link that in the description. And just remember, as we wrap up this last season, that God is for you. He is truly for you. And the world wants to yell a lot of different things about Christianity and about whether or not God is good or God even exists. And there's a lot you can believe. You have a lot of different choices in front of you. And I just encourage you to, if you haven't listened to any of the other episodes as well, just listen to the stories of how God has shown up in all of our lives, and let that be something that encourages you to find him if you haven't already, because he really is. I'm going to steal this from Tara Lee Cobble, who is the host of the Bible Recap, which is how I read the Bible through in a year. She, at the end of every video, she says, he is where the joy is. And I am going to steal that right now and tell you that that is the truth. He truly is where you find true joy, because life continues to happen, as Chana so eloquently shared. There are different things that happen in our lives that can bring us to a place of complete desperation, complete hopelessness, but he is truly where you find everlasting joy, regardless of what the circumstances of life are bringing to you. So I hope that in this season, you saw how God restores. You saw how God redeems. You saw the way that he moves and grooves, even when we don't see it in the moment. But when we look back on our situations, we look back on our stories, we can see where he was all along. And he's doing the same thing for you right now, even if you don't feel it or see it. And I hope that you can take a moment and just even go through your last decades of life and see where maybe he was, and that would draw you closer to him.
Mhm.
So that's it. That's what I wanted to say as we wrap up this season number 2 of The Flourishing. Thank you for being here. I look forward to you meeting more of my amazing friends in the next season and whatever that looks like. And until then, keep flourishing. Bye, everyone.